Okay.
We're gonna go live. We're gonna go live. We're doing it live.
Okay, we're doing it
And
live.
that's the first image that we see is Geek with his
Lovely.
awesome Mirror Universe goatee. Yelling, we're going live. We're going live. We're going live.
I love it though.
It's the Mirror Universe. Some random geek. So he is a vulture capitalist.
Yes. Oh my God, I can play that role.
Who is pro police and pro state.
But the cop car got set on fire.
Oh, you could be
it's just
They broke the window of the Starbucks. How dare they?
You could run for. Look at the doggy.
I was
I
was in a protest in Tallahassee, and I almost got hit by a car.
Oh,
Well.
okay.
Did you guys see that story?
I saw the one from New York.
Didn't see it at all. No.
I saw cops
Liberals
driving into
can't
a crowd.
drive.
Yeah, I saw
Yes,
the one
I
in
saw
New
that.
York. I didn't see anything. I mean, I'm sure it's been happening other places. I've seen lots of stories of cops like obviously escalating nonviolent protests.
yes.
Yeah.
Actually,
There's been riots all over the place.
Yeah.
well, I had a friend that I didn't went to the one yesterday in Seattle, but like a friend of mine did went to one in Seattle, and from her experience, no, the protesters themselves were peaceful, and definitely all the black protesters those were peaceful. The cops escalated that, and I'm looking at like King 5, like news.com, King 5, the local affiliate of the NBC. They have not mentioned how the cops escalated. They just say that it turned violent or turned destructive or anything like that. And so that's why I think it's just like, sure, read the news, but like Morton Chomsky mentioned this in like Manufacturing Gazette. Do not distrust the news. Read it, but understand they are coming from a certain position as they will get the official story of the cops.
Also, don't just read one version.
True.
Multiple sources never hurts.
Right.
Yes.
Also,
Go to Twitter.
I don't know if you guys, any of you guys know Nosy Housefrau. She's a YouTuber. She lives in Toledo, and she messaged me a little bit on Facebook that she was at the protest last night, and they got tear gas, and she's like, no one was being violent. The worst that happened was a few people, milling around in the intersection, and the cops just showed up and just started tear gassing everybody. And that's why, the people that are like, oh, well, they shouldn't be violent, which, okay, I'm as a general principle, I'm against people being violent, but it's like, I think back to when Black Lives Matter was getting out there and protesting and marching, and in multiple states, they were attempting to pass laws to make it legal for drivers to run people down who were in the road, basically deputizing people to murder fellow citizens who were peacefully inconveniencing people.
Are they really fellow citizens if they're liberals?
What's that?
Are they really fellow citizens if they're liberals? You can only be a real citizen if you voted for Trump.
So we're not allowed, and Colin Kaepernick is a traitor because he kneeled. So this idea that
well, that's the second strike against them.
But not that way, or that way, or that way, or that way.
It's just amazing to me that the character assassination of Colin Kaepernick, because I didn't even know this first part, but at first he tried sitting during the anthem, and that didn't go over well. So he talked to a veteran buddy of his, a guy who was in the war, and asked, hey, what do you do to honor your fellow fallen soldiers? Because he, of course, wanted to honor all the unarmed black people who were being gunned down. And he's like, oh, well, we kneel. And he was actually trying to be respectful about the whole thing, and somehow it got twisted and mischaracterized as him being against the troops.
Yeah, well, he obviously was. He's black.
Well, even
though
where the violence comes from,
even though a disproportionate percentage of troops are black.
No kidding.
Exactly.
Oh, heavily disproportionate.
Well, that's the least they owe to the U.S. We freed them from slavery.
That's right. We freed them from slavery.
Oh, we put them in poverty because of the new Jim Crow, the old Jim Crow, the sharecropping.
I think in the Vietnam War, weren't most of the tunnel rats that went into the tunnels to clear the booby traps, weren't they black? Was that true?
Probably.
We didn't have to even go through the trouble of making a new Jim Crow. We could have just left the old one. So, I mean, where's the gratitude for that? Hey, before we get too far into this, and I know we have tons of stuff to talk about, Lauren, you did want to share something, so let's do that first. And
Yeah, thanks a lot, Steve.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping I can get through this without getting, too maudlin or crazy or whatever have you. But over about 2 weeks ago, I lost a friend of mine, and that's him. And that's Morris. He was mostly Maine Coon.
Lovely boy.
Yeah, we got a hold of him when one of my wife's clients was moving in someplace where they couldn't keep a cat, so we got offered him, and I'll tell you what, he turned out to be my bestest buddy. Never mind being a total goof. I mean, he's just crashed out, tired from sleeping all day. And of course, then was also a super kitty because he was so big he could flop in 2 directions at the same time. And would occasionally hang with me. And this last one is my favorite. And I'm gonna miss him like hell.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share that with you guys.
He's beautiful.
Yeah. He was a beautiful cat.
Did you guys see all? I stepped through the pictures. Did those come up?
We could see. Yeah, we could see.
Terrific. Yeah, I wanted to be sure of that.
Everybody could see.
Lauren, as somebody, if you probably have seen my dog Blitzen, and I know I picked her up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I put pictures up. I don't know if I lost her. She left us March 3rd, and so I totally feel for you because I know what you're going through. We had it for 12 and a half years, and
well, as it happens, I mean, this was back in 2000. I want to say it was 2008 when we got Morris. So we had 12 good years with him, and it was interesting. I was researching Maine Coons, and apparently 10 to 12 years is their typical lifetime. So although I don't think he was 100% purebred, but I mean, those were 12 great years.
Yeah.
From the live chat, Letter Arnold says, "Could some who reads good give Lauren love?" Letter Arnold, since you love Lauren, because she also lost her cat, and she knows how painful that is.
The saving grace is we still have 4 others who are all knuckleheads anyway. But I mean, I don't call Morris my bestest buddy just for nothing. He was a terrific cat.
Yeah, and that's the thing. A lot of people who've never had pets, or haven't had like a dog or a cat. Mm-hmm. I think they really are different. They're different than you can love your bird, you can love your snake, whatever else. But I think because dogs and cats are very social, and they're definitely become a part of your family.
For sure.
And I've known people. I've seen people that are like, they actually get incensed when people say that the pet was part of the family. And like, no, they are, because they are. That they are individuals and they each have their own personality, and they contribute so much. And unlike people, people, we can have good interactions, we can have negative interactions even with people we love, but with our pets, basically they just love us like unconditionally, and so they become really close, probably some cases maybe closer to us than a lot of people. So I feel for you, man.
And they accept us without condition, damn near. And there's this wonderful quote I ran onto. I think I came onto this. I'm trying to think. God, what's his name? Who used to do the last word or something like that? Used to do it on MSNBC. What was his name? I can't think of it.
Lawrence O'Donnell.
No, not Lawrence O'Donnell. It's the
with the glasses.
Anyhow,
no, I can't think of who that is.
He put me wise to this quote, which I thought was wonderful. Until one has loved an animal, part of one's soul remains unawakened on a toll of friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was marvelous, and it's 100% true.
Yeah.
There was this king who owned like 40 dachshunds. And of course, he couldn't take care of them all by himself. He had service to do that, but he would just, anytime he was home, they would just go crazy. And I think he said that the more he sees of man, the more he loves his dogs.
I think that like what people don't understand is like, and what's not often valued in this society is emotional health and an emotional comfort, and that's what animals do to us. I mean, Lejano has like said on Schuster's Army, that she did not realize how her cat Merlin was an emotional support animal for her, and so that's when kind of like makes it hard when she lost her. So yeah, and yeah, I think I'll stop there. I could go on as always.
Yeah, I mean they really are a member of the family.
Yeah.
You know, like there's no. Like, and there's no, it's not like a child, but it's kind of like a child. It's not like a friend, but it's kind of like a friend. It's its own thing, you know.
Yeah. Well, and they are. I mean, because basically, like, okay, you know, I know in Blitzen's case, she was a big personality. I've got two others, and I love them dearly, but Blitzen was something different, you know.
Yeah.
She was she was very outspoken, literally, and she was demanding, and we called her Princess Blitzen from a very young age, and she was the leader. And that's the problem now is the two that are left are rudderless because they don't know what to do without her. They're you know, I mean, we're settling in, but but yet, as much as she was demanding, you know, when I was sick or not feeling well, she'd come to me and she'd give me little kisses and she'd snuggle against me and say it's going to be okay, you know.
Yeah. Well, Joe M. You said
Joe
you had some
McCoy.
good news.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about Lauren's departed cat, I got a phone call that I muted, and apparently it was the call about the COVID test I had, and I am negative, which is awesome.
Oh, great!
Damn, good
That's
news.
Great. That's really good news.
Were you do you know you were exposed or what?
No, but I work for a state mental hospital, so
fun.
Was several chances to be exposed.
I don't know if I said this in another month in another hangout, but I think I might be an asymptomatic carrier because a couple months ago I was exposed to it enough that I don't see how I couldn't have, you know, gotten it on me. Now, we don't have enough tests in my area for anyone but medical professionals to get tests. All you can be is like presumptive positive, so I might never know. But I'm pretty confident I might have been an asymptomatic carrier, which really isn't that far-fetched because up to a third of the people who catch the virus might just never get sick from it. They never know they had it.
So that's why everyone masked up and get these cloths, wash them, hand wash them every night. I put one in my backpack in case I ran out the door to catch the bus and I forget it because like they have it as a rule, just a rule. So it's like that you must wear a mask if you go on public transit.
I've got one on the visor of my car. So if I go out and I forget about it, bang, there it is in the car. Pull it out, put it on, zoop. Ready to go. Oh, that which reminds me, there was an interesting article in Car and Driver which I had to keep in mind because I do keep sanitizer in my car. But they say if the temperatures get up there, be careful because the sanitizer can, shall we say, combust.
Oh, how fun!
Yeah,
I don't know if it will combust. It can definitely boil.
Well,
but the auto ignition temperature is going to be higher than.
What are you? Who are you? A MythBuster? Nobody asked you.
I mean, he's just a just the alchemist.
He looks like a MythBuster.
He does look. You have a little Adam Savage thing going there.
It's a point on the curve I thought was worth bringing up. I mean, whether it's 100% verified or not, but
I mean, I definitely believe the bottle will explode.
Better to be careful.
A bottle could bulge and maybe pop from pressure. But as far as actually igniting, I mean, the auto ignition temperature of isopropanol is much higher than what you're going to get in your car.
Yeah, probably.
I the moment that these somehow became a wedge issue, these became politicized. You know where I think where I think they lost people is when you had this guy on camera saying, "Now remember, it's not just to protect yourself; it's to protect others around you." That's where they lost people because Republicans they tuned out. Because it goes against their entire ideology.
I don't want to protect people.
Other people.
Wait a minute.
I think it's bad to care about other people.
That neighbor thing, Jesus was such a bad
Somebody.
For too many people, freedom means you don't have to give a shit about other people.
Freedom means no consequences for me. I'm sorry, I talked to you.
No obligations. That's really, and it's that any right-wing libertarian or anything like that. It all comes down to I don't want to acknowledge any obligation or responsibility toward anybody else but myself. And of course, that's not what freedom means. In fact, it doesn't even, as I've mentioned before, it's not even, if you just look at on paper libertarian philosophy, it's not even what that says, because that says, the whole my right to swing my arm ends at your nose, which if you actually believed it, would actually mean you have an enormous responsibility to your fellow human being, because you have to make sure you're not punching them in the nose. But they don't want to acknowledge all the times they're doing it. And I told one guy, I said, who liked to spout that, and I was like, yeah, if you're potentially infected and you're going out there and you're breathing on us with your virus laden exhalations, you're literally punching us in the nose.
As silly and as sorry, go ahead.
No, the thing about freedom, the best quote about freedom is from Janis Joplin. So
the darndest thing is, as much as this must sound like a parody, or as much as this may sound like a satire or a parody thing, you could feasibly do this. You could hold somebody hostage by grabbing them like, I'll sneeze, I'll do it.
You know what I hate? I hate that, because now that we're in this reopening phase, before the next outbreak. And it's like, because I was out a couple of days ago. I was out day before yesterday because as I told the story on my Friday live stream, I had to go pick my truck up from a garage, and everybody, we're all wearing masks, and I was talking to the woman at the service center, and as I was checking out and everything, and we're just sort of chit chatting, and we go through this, to me, excruciating feeling out process of is this a crazy person? Is this an asshole? Is this, because she would say something that, just probably just an innocuous thing. She said, everybody, we've been really busy today. Everybody's coming in to make sure they get their vehicles for this weekend because things are opening up more this weekend. And I just kind of say, yeah. And she says, I hope it opens up as much as they say it will. And then it's like, okay, what does she mean by that? Is she saying that she doesn't think the restrictions are necessary? Is she trying to say she thinks this is all bullshit and this is all for nothing? So I just said, yeah, well, I hope if it does that it's safe. Because I didn't know what else to say. I don't want to get into an argument with somebody, and I don't want to mistake her if she doesn't mean it that way. But it's God, I hate this. I hate that we're in this point where, like Nick said, it has become a wedge issue. It's become politicized, where it's people saying, I hope things open up. It could either mean I hope things are better so they can open up, or it could mean this is all bullshit. We shouldn't have to do this anyway.
It's Trump supporters versus everyone else.
Yeah,
and it's also the people who simply haven't been touched by it yet. Or they're not aware of anyone who's personally gotten it. They're not aware of anybody who's had a serious problem with it. Now, admittedly, I don't know anyone, but frankly, I'm willing to, I want to err on the side of caution myself. I mean, I haven't gotten to be almost 70 years old by being, phenomenally stupid as it comes to emergent threats.
Right.
I just wanted to interject because I'm on the idea of the mask thing, COVID-19 being a wedge issue. Renegade Cut did a really good video essay about that, how this is connected to a whole history of other wedge issues, even going back to at the end of the Civil War, when blacks became free and became citizens. Eugene Debs talked about that. The reason why the poor white Southern workers did not show solidarity in the other poor black workers is because the whiteness became a wedge issue for the capitalists to tell the workers. It's just no, don't collab with them and collaborate with them and collectively bargain for stuff like that. You're a white person, you're better than them. And although
that's how they would break up strikes and unions, is by bringing in black workers or slaves.
Yeah,
to be honest.
Use racism
and it goes back even further than that. I mean, you think about because indentured servitude happened around the same time as chattel slavery, and so basically you already created a stratified class where you had black slaves, and then above them poor whites, either current and post indentured servitude, and this was one of the reasons why now that white racists are trying to make them equal. They were trying. It's funny. So for years it was like they were glad to be above those darkies who were slaves, but now they want to try to equate them because they want to gain some nobility out of it.
Well, they did work together in Bacon's Rebellion, and then they codified segregation on all levels after that.
Jim Crow, yeah.
Right.
They went down to Alabama, interview people about the whole reopening thing, and there was one person that said that if it's my time to go, then God will take me, and it's like.
And I'm like, well,
I have given up on humanity.
So at that point,
I give up on certain people. I would say.
When I see people say that, I say, I hope you get to see him very soon.
Yeah.
The problem with the left is they're all a bunch of people lovers.
A bunch of people lovers like us. But that's the thing. Also, I do give up on some people, but I look at some of the things like after the riots in Minnesota, and also after the riots in Seattle, there are people that have just come to the city once the curfew is lifted. Seattle has on the curfew from 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. today as well. People came in to clean up, and people came in to just provide services. So without direction, without a leader, without just an organization, almost people just demonstrated that mutual aid is a factor of evolution.
The Mennonites came to support
the Amish.
Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
No, apparently they aren't Amish, but Mennonites. The ones that are on the pictures with the 3 girls who have an awesome attitude.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The Amish are all Amish are Mennonites. Not all Mennonites are Amish.
Okay.
Boy, you're just a font of info.
Yeah, that's the thing that was kind of funny. When I years ago, when I first discovered that Mennonites existed, I really was aware of Amish, but I wasn't aware of Mennonites, and I thought that maybe the Mennonites were a breakaway, more liberal side of the Amish, and I found out no, it's the opposite. There were Mennonites, and some people were like, "You guys are way too liberal for me. I'm going out." Yeah, we're the Amish.
I mean, even amongst anarchists, there's definitely there's a joke amongst anarchists. It's in this city there are 2 anarchist organizations. One's a narco-syndicalist organization that wants to have democracy at the workplace. The other one was formed 10 years ago because the guy got kicked out of the other anarchist organization. So even there will be I hate that guy, I'm leaving, and freedom of association.
But you mentioned Isaiah mentioned Alabama. In last October, I went to visit my aunt Viola and she just down literally a few few yards away from the house my father grew up in, and I had not been there. I only been there once before. And when I was there, I was with my brothers, and they kind of drove. This time I was by myself, and so when I was driving on to my next location, and I know it's all rural, it's farmland, and as I started driving away, and then I started noticing for the first time all the cotton plants, and I kind of clenched up because it kind of, it hit me, what that really represented, and it was hard.
One of the most incredible clips to come out just in the last day or so. We've seen so many examples of police brutality coming out, but there was this one where you had these 2 officers on a guy, and he wasn't a black guy, he was just a protester. But one of them had their knee on his neck. It was almost the exact same thing that started all of this. And
I think
people
it was
in the crowd,
Seattle actually on Friday. Yeah.
People in the crowd, they just erupted. Get off his fucking neck! Get off his neck!
Did you not learn anything?
The second officer, he's looking around. He's like, oh, he just finally read the room enough to grab the other officer's knee and pull it off.
Oh, okay. That's
well, hip hooray!
Yeah, I know, right?
Well, here's something I found. A friend of mine who's an MMA fighter told me yesterday. He's like, you know what? The guy who was on the knee, yes, he contributed to that. He's not the only one. He goes. I use that maneuver to put people out, make them unconscious all the time. He goes, listen to what the guy was saying, because he was talking about his gut, his knee, and all that. So basically, it was the combination of the guy on his neck and the one who was basically kneeling on his diaphragm. So it made breathing harder to begin with, and then coupled with the reduced oxygen flow, that collectively is what. So those other officers should be on the hook too.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Oh, for sure.
They always say, if you can talk, you can breathe. Well, evidently he couldn't.
And Joe, you have a point.
There was some douchebag redneck politician that said that the other day. Like, motherfucker, he died.
He's dead.
Joe McClory, next.
And they should have been trained to know that. In my job, sometimes we have to contain someone who is acting in a way that will harm others. And before we are allowed on the floor to touch any patient, we are extensively trained so that we do not accidentally do things like that.
Okay, hold on.
If
you care about your patients.
And if officers
that sounds like
are not trained in that fashion or are ignoring their training, I just can't.
Bo of the Fifth Column he did a video on Wednesday, the 27th, saying that like he has looked at other videos of police brutality and he like diagnosed those things and point them out and goes to like, well, that's where he went wrong. That's where things escalated. In this
he's awesome, by the way. You should.
He's awesome. Bo of the Fifth Column is awesome. Yes.
He commented about the charges too. You should watch that video.
That's the recent one that he put up yesterday. But on Wednesday, he said that like there's more that we don't know about, but it's going to make it worse. And that's what he commented on yesterday. That it's worse. The police officer had a history with George Floyd. They worked at bouncers together. The police officer has been involved in multiple police shootings in his 19-year career and has dozens of complaints against him. And I bet there has been a lot of other complaints against the Minnesota Police Department.
Wait, did you say that cop knew the guy?
Yes,
I've heard that too. Yeah.
Oh,
yes, yes.
Boy, that I hadn't heard.
Yeah, they work together.
Well, I heard that from a lady where the two of the guys were employed was that the officer was much more antagonistic to blacks than he was Latinos. So I'm hearing that
not
too.
Surprising. Yes, so it's
it's kind of funny because usually blacks and Latinos are kind of put in that same group anyway. Sometimes. So.
But that's why Bo was just like so angry yesterday when the charges. We finally got the charges. But it's only murder 3 and man. And those like, if you cannot find intent in the videos everything's got, and with all the other evidence you have, then just
see. Here's the thing, though. Intent is. I don't know if you know Prof MTH, a fantastic former YouTuber, and also a constitutional law professor. He said that he was satisfied in that. Intent is extremely hard to prove, and unfortunately what's happened in the past sometimes is that we've lost cases because they went for the higher charge, and because the whole because of the reasonable doubt standard, that basically all it takes is one person to think, well, he didn't mean to do it. So the thing is, murder.
Bo talks about that. You really should watch a video. I think you would find it interesting.
It seems like you're going too far in the other direction. You're bending over backwards. Sometimes you just need somebody who says, "I won't convict a cop."
Yeah, he didn't mean to do it with his knee on his neck. Sorry, I don't buy it for a freaking instant.
He also said he couldn't breathe. So don't you think he should have gotten off his neck for him to breathe?
I don't disagree with anything that you're saying, but I also know the way juries have ruled historically in this country and likely in the future. So the point was that you can I'd rather get a charge that sticks because murder 3 can still carry a sentence of up to 25 years.
Yeah.
So I'd much rather him get convicted and go to prison than get away.
No one is going to convict a cop 25 years for a first offense. You know that. I know that. We all know that.
Yeah,
I mean,
except
that's
this
probably
isn't necessarily
true.
his first offense.
Well, and that's the reason why they included
It's the first offense he's been arrested for and charged for. So in the eye of the law, it's his first offense, even if apparently he already killed a guy in the past.
He's been involved in other police officer shootings.
And Amy Kombucha refused to prosecute. So.
Well, and this is the reason why they also included the manslaughter charge, because again, it's a lower threshold. So now that only carries up to 10 years, but again, I'll take that because that's still a fucking improvement over what we normally get.
Yeah,
it's a statement of affairs, but that's the reality.
I think of I've almost every time one of these things happens, I always think of Amadou Diallo.
Thank you.
Who, I mean, if there was ever an open and shut case of police brutality, it was that one, and all 4 of them were acquitted.
Yeah.
And I mean, so if you think that, like, so I mean, I agree that it's an impossible situation. Even if you find a prosecutor who genuinely wants to do the right thing and wants to put this guy away, it's a tough nut to crack, because there's a very long, very embarrassing history in this country of cops who are totally guilty being allowed to walk just because. You know,
I mean, witness Tamir Rice. I mean, we were talking about that a couple of years ago. I mean, shows up on site. Now, 2 seconds later, Tamir's on the ground with a bullet in his chest.
Right.
I mean, come on.
Right. They gave him no. And my favorite is John Crawford, who they said that he didn't comply when they told him to put the toy gun down, but literally they snuck up on him. The cop pops up and shoots him. So there's literally. He may not have even realized they were there, but he wasn't complying. And of course, the video, and even there, nobody was even charged.
Yeah, how do you comply when you're being surprised? Explain that one to me. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, exactly. I remember seeing typical reaction time is like 3/4 of a second. He probably, even if he was even aware of the movement, he couldn't have even figured out, oh, there's a person there telling me to do something.
As I recall, they ran up behind him. He didn't have time to respond to anything.
Exactly.
And when it comes to, when it comes to them saying that the people are resisting arrest, usually what do we see? We see them like already wailing on the person, trying to knock them unconscious or something. And what is the natural human instinct when you're being attacked? To do this.
Right.
Of course you want to protect yourself. It's like, I don't care that he's a cop. Some guy's just beating me in. And they expect you to not do that. They expect you to do the most unnatural thing in the world and just let them.
Yeah, Eric Garner literally put his hands out like that, so because they were trying to choke me, and then he's resisting arrest. Like, no, he's defending his life.
Right.
Can someone explain to me why it took the Rodney King video and why it took so many like to subdue someone? Why did you have to hit him so many times?
Because he's black.
Exactly.
He's a natural.
There is no explanation
because of his blackness.
I'll tell you why. Yeah, because white people are petrified of black.
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
And I see it all. I see it all the time. I get on an elevator, and I hate getting on an elevator like with a lone person, especially if it's a white woman. Holy shit. So what I do is I stand in a corner and I stare into the fucking corner because I don't want anyone to accuse. And I think just even stepping on the elevator, clutching their purse, getting all nervous, and I just showed up, and it's funny because especially with the clutching the purse, I mean, I'm not running anyway. So even if I did take the purse away, where am I going to go? First of all, I'm in the elevator, and then it's not like I'm going to run away. I'm going to get 15 steps and keel over for lack of oxygen.
Well, serious. It's kind of like that first scene in Higher Learning where Omar Epps is in the elevator, and then the white girl, the white actress, clutches her purse, something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well,
and then she calls the cops and says that he was aggressing her. And
to be fair, most women react like that to most men in the elevator. Not just black men.
It's not. Yeah. We all have to watch it a little bit, but it's like I think a big problem with the sort of the underlying assumptions that a lot of cops have, and I think are either, maybe they're not even formally trained to think this way, but it's just an assumption that they have on the job, that non-compliance in and of itself is enough of an excuse to escalate.
Non-compliance is tantamount to resistance.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, if a person is not complying with your commands, but they're not being otherwise violent or threatening, like, I don't see how that's a reason to use potentially lethal force on somebody.
It is how they're trained. They must use overwhelming force to immediately take charge.
Because remove the threat. A lot of cops have the attitude like they are the law. They are Judge Dredd. How dare you not listen to something I told you to do?
Because it's amazing how many people resist arrest while sitting quietly in the back of a police car.
Yeah, I know, right? In the back of a paddy wagon.
Well, you know, they're on Kobo.
Yes, exactly. Our media glorifies the bad police, the bad cops. Do we really want Dirty Harry and our police force? Go ahead, punk, make my day, or
it's because of the starting probably in the 70s. Dirty Harry's a good example.
Yeah.
Was people viewed that there were because of things like Miranda Act and things like that. People were viewing the idea that, well, occasionally a bad guy gets free because of some quote unquote technicality, and that became a huge trope in Hollywood. And so then basically when it happened, it was always the guy who had to bend the rules or break the rules a little bit to maintain order and justice. And so the anti-hero became canonized. And we all, that's why I watched Chicago PD. It was a crossover with Special Victims Unit. And I'm watching this show, and I cringe. I couldn't finish watching the episode because it was so cringeworthy. The way that these cops, and what they do, this is like on every week, the cops have to break the rules in order to stop the evil guys. And
it's amazing how the Dirty Harry trope came into play after they legally ended Jim Crow.
That's interesting as well.
Yeah.
And also, Bo mentioned this in his video yesterday about the charges, that unfortunately the cops believe their own propaganda, that they're the warriors out there protecting everyone else from madness, that if you come home on that night, that's a good night. If you come home, because any day could be your last day, when he says, check the Labor Bureau of Statistics of the world's most dangerous jobs: fishermen, loggers, coal miners,
electrician,
even pizza delivery drivers. They die more often on the job than cops. The cops are not even in the top 10.
Well, but see, that's the thing, though. The cops believe it, but unfortunately, so does most of white society.
Yes.
So that's what happens every time one of these incidents happen. There's always some segment of the population that says, well, you got to understand it's a hard job. Even if they admit that the cop did something wrong, they basically say, well, we should excuse it because it's a hard job, it's dangerous, and so it's so scary that, maybe sometimes they're just going to fuck up and kill people. And
or they ask for civility.
And as I said last night on Got That Funk stream, we don't accept that from soldiers in actual war.
No.
There's rules of engagement, and if you as a soldier violate the rules of engagement, you stand tall before the man, and you are probably going to end up at least kicked out, if not in Leavenworth or worse.
Go ahead, Isaiah.
No, I was going to say, so one theory of why the police are so militarized and all that, I think, came from after the 1997 North Hollywood shootout, where I think some people thought that having cops as paramilitary forces was more acceptable because of that. Two civilian people were able to hold an entire police department at bay in a bank. And I think that's one theory about how the cops became highly militarized. Yeah. That and 9/11.
The irony of that, though, is that it goes to prove what those of us who are not quite as sanguine with the Second Amendment as some of them people that are more in favor of it, that the idea that, well, maybe civilians shouldn't have access to body armor, shouldn't have access to armor-piercing bullets and high-powered semi-automatic weapons and all this kind of stuff. But they didn't draw that conclusion. It was like, no, let's just. No, so the citizens should be able to have all that shit. So let's upgun the cops even more. Let's give them, armored
because the militarization started under Reagan.
That's the thing. When it comes to the training, I'm not going to say this is for every single department, but there are departments where they train like, okay, in this scenario, you're going to be pulling somebody over to give them a ticket. and then the person jumps out of the car and pretends to shoot them in like 2 seconds, like Rambo, perfect aim. Like, so it's like it's teaching them, if you don't take charge immediately, that's going to happen to you. So the cops
they're training. They're training to a worst case scenario, which is going to obtain about once every 1,000 times. I mean, can we get serious about this? Can we get real?
Yes.
Sorry.
It's more like once every 10,000 or 100,000 times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just wanted to finish what I was saying. So they're training cops to be terrified of the people that they're supposed to protect. And the screwed up thing is, I can't even blame them completely for being a little jumpy. Because everyone in America does have a gun.
Yeah, everyone does have a gun. We have 300 million guns, so that's like a gun for every person.
Just about.
I mean, that's why I love.
Just about.
Most of those are owned by a smaller portion. Of the.
Mm-hmm. You know,
there are people with dozens of guns.
Exactly.
There's a video. There's a video of a traffic stop that's been going around for the last couple of years, and it shot by someone in the car, and it was a black man driver pulled over by a cop who came up to the window with his gun already out. Mm-hmm. And it was like, and he was pulled over for like turning without a turn signal or something, like a minor moving violation. And the video is of the driver just reading this cop the riot act. I mean, just ripping him up for walking up to the car with his gun out. And one of the things he keeps saying is to the cop, he's like, look, I know you have a dangerous job. I respect that. I know you want to get home to your wife and kids. So do I. But that's your job. Like, nobody drafted you and made you become a cop. This is the job you chose to do. And if you can't do that job in such a way that you can't even pull somebody over for not using a turn signal without walking up to the car with your gun out, then you know that's your problem. That's not my problem. That's your problem. And you know, and I feel like that point gets lost a lot. Yeah. It's like people don't. Nobody in this country is a police officer involuntarily. Like, that's a life that you choose. Mm. And granted, a lot of people choose it because they need a job, especially at the local level. There are a lot of local cops who didn't grow up dreaming of being law enforcement officers or upholding some noble ideal. They just needed a job out of high school, and the standards are low enough that they could, you know, like, I mean, honestly, how much of a loser do you have to be if you wash out as a fucking local cop? Let's be honest.
Which is well, the thing is, if the standards are that low, would you really want them to be a cop?
Well, that's a whole other issue. But I mean, like,
someone just sent me a link to a video of a cop doing the OK white power sign, and
I saw that.
Other cops cheer him up.
Oh, I saw that.
Like,
was that in New York? That was an NYPD cop, I think. Yeah,
NYPD. Yeah.
Some of those who joined forces.
I know I'm a dirty anarchist, but when I see stuff like that, I can only be reminded about that song. Some of those that work forces are the same that burn crosses.
Killing in the Name by Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah,
and to Steve's
that
point,
was 30 years ago, and it's still relevant. Oh. What the fuck?
Well, and to Steve's point, you know, that I said last night, you know, one of my ritual about when I get in my car is I empty my pockets. I put my wallet in the place where they used to put a cigarette lighter. Now it's a little like compartment. I put my keys in one of those cup holders, and I make sure that I've got my other stuff above the visor. So that if they approach my car, if they want me to throw my keys out, it's a very easy maneuver to just grab with my right hand and throw them out the window. If I need to get my wallet, I don't have to reach into my pocket. So this way, when if I get pulled over, I can grab my wallet, put it open it up and put it with cards and everything up, so that he can see that it's not a gun. So that if I have to reach when he tells me to get my license, that I can reach for it without scaring the fuck out of him. And everything is right there. And
that's
I'm
so fucked up.
And what does it say that you have to do that, and I don't even think about having to do that?
Exactly.
And I'll tell you what, there was I think I mentioned a few months back how like a year ago when I bought my car, how I was test driving cars and a cop had pulled me over. I don't know if I relayed that story.
Not this one, no.
It looks like no. So basically, what I was doing is I'm test driving a car. So it's not my car. So I'm taking it easy. You know, I'm not speeding or anything like that. And because I don't want to break the damn thing, you know. And so I pull up to a light, and there's a cop at the light in front of me. So I always leave them. I don't get too close because I don't want to spook them or anything. So I leave a respectable distance, but not a stupid, not a crazy distance. Just So then the light changes, and the cop, we go forward a little bit. The cop gets in the right lane, stops, waits for me to pass, and then comes over and gets behind me, and he follows me. So I'm like, oh, what the hell? I'm driving the car. It's not a beat up, it's a nice car, but it's not ridiculously nice. And so then
stole it.
I get back in, so then I get in the right lane, and he follows me into the right lane. I'm like, okay, this motherfucker's gonna pull me over. And I'm panicking now because I realize because it's not my car, I did not go through my usual ritual, and I'm fucking panicking. And I know where I'm at because I'm in Toms River, New Jersey, which is hillbilly central, and I've got harassed by cops there before. So then I put my blinker on, and because I'm thinking, I'll go pull into McDonald's. Maybe if I pull into McDonald's, and then he put his signal on, like, oh shit, he's coming for me. So I somehow had the presence of mind to realize where I was, and I realized I'm on the border of the town. So at the traffic light is, if I continue straight, I'm still in Toms River, but if I go right in a few feet, I'm not in Toms River anymore. So I continue to the light, and I turn, and I was watching my rearview mirror. He pulled out into the intersection, stopped, and was obviously like looking at me and trying to decide whether it was worth it to try to come after me anyway. And then eventually he pulled away. And I was a wreck. And again, I'm freaking out because I didn't do my usual thing. And I'm thinking, oh, great. And mind you, this is the same town where years ago I was going to visit somebody, and I'm on a county road, mind you. I'm not in the neighborhood yet. I'm on a county road. It's a through street. I left home. It was daylight. It was now twilight. So I put my headlights on. I didn't know one of my headlights was burnt out. Cop pulls me over. Okay, legitimate reason to pull me over. He starts giving me the third degree. And one of the things he says is, I said I was going to see a friend. He goes, who do you know in this neighborhood? What? And then I told him I told him the address, and and then he asked me again where I was going, and I told him my friend's name, and then he asked me again. I give her her phone number, and then I start then I start describing the house, and then I gave fucking directions from the point where we were to her house. Like, hey, I know where I'm going. You know the house with the arboretum and blah blah blah. Very specific house. It's the only house in the neighborhood like that. And it was like this guy could not get over and again, I could have been just driving down the highway, driving down the county road to go wherever. There was nothing. I wasn't in a neighborhood, and this was 30 years ago. And I felt like, what did I drive into Soviet Russia? Where your papers, please. But it's been like that, so I know this is a town that is especially bad, which ironically is really fucked up because it's not even like it's a ritzy neighborhood. Like, I get it if I'm in a rich neighborhood and like, what are you doing here, boy? But Toms River is like hillbilly white people. These are the people who just made it out of the trailer park. It's hillbilly New Jersey, and that's the ritual I have to go through, and it's. I'm so tired of having to do it in the first place. I cringe anymore every time I do it, and even worse when I realize I haven't done it. And then so last time I got pulled over, I was driving my wife's vehicle, and so her registration had expired. She didn't realize it, and so it hadn't gotten inspected. And so a cop pulled me over. I called her on the phone because I wanted someone to be listening just in case. I wanted a witness who wasn't black, to my wife's white, to someone that could stick up for me if something went haywire. Thankfully it didn't, but I was petrified because it wasn't my car, so everything wasn't where I'm used to it being. And so when my wife told me, oh, the registration is in the console. And I was like, officer, is it okay? The registration is here. Is it okay if I open the console? And I'm like, slowly opening it, and I that's what we go through though, and it needs to stop.
Post-racial what?
Yeah, exactly. Well, like
I don't have a car yet, so
I don't either. But then again,
hold out as long as you can. It sounds like.
So, I just need to say something. So, I am of course not part of that community, and I haven't seen any of this stuff in person or firsthand. But look, what I'm about to say, I swear I'm not being performative. I'm not trying to signal what a good little ally I am. This is all completely genuine. So for years now, every other day, whether I'm watching the Young Turks or something else, I see a black person brutalized, killed. Sometimes a woman, sometimes a 14-year-old girl will be suplexed in the hallway of her school. I have seen this happen constantly for years and years. And I know that, of course, it was happening for decades before anyone could record it with their smartphones. But when I see people, to this day, not take it seriously, when they dismiss it, I've lost all patience for these people. I get livid. My head starts pounding, my chest hurts, my hands get all shaky, my vision gets blurry. I get that pissed off. Nothing else in this world apparently makes me that mad. And again, I'm sorry, I'm not saying it to show what a good person I am. No, I'm just fed up with people.
I think it makes anyone with a smidge of empathy mad.
Yes.
Honestly.
Yeah, and here's the other thing, and this is truly amazing to me, is the fact that cell phone cameras now might as well be ubiquitous. I mean, there's a cell phone camera on that cop when he had his knee on the guy's neck. And yet this behavior continues to obtain. Somebody, please explain to me why.
Yeah. Also, the Seattle PD, I heard it on Twitter, who hashtag Seattle protests. And I'm sure it's happening across all the other protests, especially since I also noticed the pattern that curfew, then the National Guard called in, and then ICE is allowed to go in on those sites as well. Happened in LA, happened in Seattle, but also I heard it on the ground by people who were there that the Seattle police officers, all of which, and that's probably true in the other protests, covered up their badge numbers with the officer down tape that they'll have.
I saw that.
And also, they turn off their body cams.
Yeah.
So let's add gasoline to the fire. Why don't we?
Turning off the body.
Turn off a body cam.
Turning off the body cam is my favorite thing that they do, because you might as well leave them on, fellas. Nobody cares anyway. Honestly,
ICE is the new SS. Pass it on.
What are they? What are they turning off the body cam for?
When they turn off their camera, it's literally a tacit admission. I'm going to do some shit that I know I'm not supposed to do.
Yeah.
And the hell of it is, there's almost certainly somebody else around there who does have their camera on. If it isn't a cop, it's a civilian and a witness. So hey, smile, you're on candid camera.
But as far as empathy goes, here's what the thing where it's really tough. In fact, Tracy Harris just posted this thing: 75 things white people can do for racial justice. One correction, because it said because and then the tagline is white people do something. I said one correction: do something different. I said white people usually do something, it's just usually the wrong thing. Because here's the thing about empathy. My cousin Danielle, now she's on my great grandmother. She's a third cousin, second cousin, third cousin, somewhere in there. Anyway. She on the one hand posted very good things about feeling bad for the guy, the dead man and his family and all this kind of stuff. Lovely. And I'm thinking, oh great, because that side of the family tends to be a bit more Republican, conservative. But then she posted another thing where it was some unfortunate white person who was killed by some black dude, and they're like, well, how come where's the protest for these people? And I replied, I said, because if you look at the story, black man was arrested almost immediately, charged, convicted, and faced justice. That's what we're wanting. I said, it's not simply white person hurt black person, so therefore a riot. It's white person hurt black person without any accountability or punishment. Again, that's the fucking problem. And
again.
And I've seen so many memes like this where it's literally like, well, no one what about this poor white person that got killed? I'm like, yeah. And every single one of them, the black people who did it were incarcerated. They're like, well, you got justice. You got what's supposed to happen. We don't, and that's what you don't get.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's just Go ahead.
No, I was going to say I've never seen so much anger in this country before. I'm serious. I have not seen this before.
I'm serious.
Yeah,
well, it's adding and adding and adding to itself. Never mind the fact that how long was it between the time that Lloyd died and the cop was arrested? Answer me that one.
9 minutes.
Yeah, according to the what was it, the county prosecutor, the guy, according to him, it was record time.
It's because it's harder to ignore this
it was
stuff
one
than
thing though.
it
He was fired. He was fired was one thing, but when was he actually
he was
arrested?
put on administrative
He
leave.
wasn't arrested until after the first riot.
Yes, exactly.
It was like a week,
Point
wasn't
made.
it? I mean,
3 days.
3 days.
And don't forget, this comes right on the heels of Ahmaud Arbery and those guys not getting charged for a week.
Oh, yes, they had the video of, and that was
for a week,
for months.
For months, John, for months.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
They had videos for months.
I find it.
One of the guys was an ex-cop.
The guy, the guy who was announcing the arrest of the officer in the George Floyd case, he said that he had been arrested and charged in record time. I find it incredibly hard to believe that.
Well, no, that probably was record time.
Well, for a cop. But I mean, if the crime had been committed under the same circumstances by someone who was not a police officer, I find it incredibly hard to believe that a murderer on video with multiple witnesses who they knew who he was and how to find him would not have been arrested that day.
Well,
I find it
cops have a
impossible
right
to believe
kill.
that.
That's the issue.
It depends on who the victim was.
That's true too.
Because here's the thing, and I don't know if I mentioned this at all in any of the hangouts, but back near the end of last fall, my nephew Tyreek was murdered.
Oh my word!
In Philadelphia.
That's terrible.
And now, while there wasn't video of the actual murder, but there
I'm
was
so sorry, Joe.
video by the person who killed him. That he, because basically, he was a popular kid. He was not, a troublemaker. He worked at Philadelphia Airport, fueling planes and all this kind of stuff. And he was just about to start a new job working for SEPTA, and so he was popular. So people made a little memorial for him at the spot he was killed. Well, the fucking murderer posted a video of himself pissing on the memorial to fucking Instagram. And this guy proceeded to keep posting on Facebook, Instagram, and every other platform, laughing about how he killed my nephew, with geotags where the motherfucker was. With geotags where the motherfucker was. And it took over 4 months for the police to arrest him.
I just have two quick points to add about this whole thing. So, look, the thing is, years ago, when it was...
The reason why is because the victim was black, and the police don't give a fuck about another black kid.
Yep.
So, yeah.
What about black on black crime?
Joe, I have a thought for you.
No, let Nick go.
Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, let Nick go
This
first.
was like almost the same thing that happened to Eric Garner. Thing is, back then, you didn't see as much sympathy from people outside the black community because there weren't as many documented examples of this sort of thing back then. The first few dozen times it happened, it was easier for people to just dismiss it as, oh, those are just isolated incidents. It's just a few bad apples. But now that we've seen it like so many times, it's harder for people to ignore. They can't, it's not as easy to dismiss anymore. And I do think it is a turn for the better that we are seeing more people taking it seriously than they did just a few years ago. More people are sympathizing with them. Like you said, even people that I wouldn't expect. And I would just message them privately saying, I'm so glad you're on the right side of history of this. But the second point I wanted to say, just Black Lives Matter as a slogan. Years ago, I was at a cookout, with family. And one of my aunts, I have many, one of them, I had to explain it to her in like a really basic, almost childish way. I had to explain it to her. No, they're not saying that only Black Lives Matter, that Black Lives Matter more than everyone else's. They're saying they want to matter as well. They want to also matter as much as anyone else, because apparently they don't. And she said, well, nobody said they didn't.
No, they're actually
paying
dead.
attention.
And it's like, yeah, nobody actually said it, but they just showed it. But with their
Right.
You probably don't talk about water
If
all
you
that much.
Actually
don't
speak so
say,
loud. I
if
can't
you
hear
don't
what
say
you're
you're a
saying.
racist, you're not a racist.
It's
Exactly.
just people not paying attention. They're asleep at the wheel.
Yeah, that's the actual Supreme Court position on it. You're not racist unless you're actually shouting the N-word while you do it.
And you mean to be racist when you shout the N-word, because maybe you're shouting the N-word for some non-racist reason. I mean, how can you see what's in someone's heart? You don't know.
It's ironic.
It's ironic.
Joe?
Exactly.
And
Joe,
Eric Izell raised a great point in the chat. Floyd's killer was arrested after the first protest, not a riot.
Not the first riot, yeah.
Yeah,
That's good.
Not riots until
Lauren,
the
go
cops
ahead.
turned them into riots.
Okay.
Exactly.
I just wanted to throw one thing out to Joe. You can take this with however many grains of salt you wish, but maybe it'll help and maybe it won't. Have you considered getting a dash cam?
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'm going to do more than dash cam. The problem is the dash cam only shows what's in front.
Yeah. You can get dash cams with multiple views, I think.
I'm actually thinking of getting 360 and also internal, because I don't trust the motherfuckers. In fact, I wanted to find out if I can get a setup that I can on the fly set up to live stream to Facebook or YouTube. So this way, if an officer comes up to me and he's agitated, I can say, "Officer, I just want to let you know that we're live streaming to the internet. Everybody can see you no matter where you go around my vehicle. Just be aware of that. Just so you know, in case you're a little nervous. So you know, I don't want."
I know in Russia they have dash cams in the cars because of police brutality there. That's how they cut. That's how they caught the Chelyabinsk meteor.
Yeah, I was just gonna say
it was insurance, I think, rather than cops. But
it's an insurance thing.
You're not allowed to be defense against the cops in Russia.
Well, and what's really funny is how many cops? Because I see these people that call themselves First Amendment auditors, which I don't love them. They're basically what they do is they and there's even a few black ones. It's amazing. I love those. I love them even more. Is what they'll do is they will film something that they know that the police are going to come and like, well, why are you filming here? You know, and they'll try to say you're not allowed to film here when you perfectly legally can film there, and it makes the cops nervous. And then they try to intimidate and they try to scare and they basically lie about what the law says. And the person's, the thing is, of course, when you're doing this, you have to know what the law actually says, and then they challenge the cops back, and then the cops ultimately end up usually walking away. It's called the walk of shame, because because they and what's really great, every once in a while you'll have a cop who will come over and then instruct the cop who's doing it wrong and saying, no, they have the right to do this and you leave them alone as long as they stay in this boundary, whatever. And in fact, one of these people actually did it in one of the neighboring towns to me over in Kenilworth, and it was great because the chief of police came out. And because he was filming, the police had this penned-in area, and the area is off limits for civilians to go into, but you can film as long as you're outside of that area. You can film into it, and so everyone came out. Even the chief of police had to and they were like, "Well, why do you want to film? Who are you?" And all this, and trying to intimidate the guy. The guy just wasn't having it, and then they all had to do the walk of shame back in. And I eat those videos up. I watch probably 30 of them a week.
So I think one final point, guys. Doesn't it tell you something about the police as they currently are? That is on us, the citizens, to know our rights. Because the police will definitely take advantage of that. And so get people to easily waive their rights. That's not a coercive institution that we should trust to serve and protect us.
I don't know, because I don't know how it is in the US, but in France, we have in the law that no one should ignore the law. We are all supposed to know our rights, cops or not cops. And I think it's smart to do so.
True.
Yeah, well, we're dealing with a nation that can't even be bothered to teach civics anymore.
Yeah, so, that's the thing.
We don't even in France anymore. I mean, we are getting closer and closer to your society. I'm
sorry.
Upset, Macron.
I'm sorry.
Terrible. What makes it harder here in the United States is we have something called qualified immunity. And basically what it does is it shields not just cops, basically any government official. It shields them from liability if through the course of their normal duties do something that's wrong. So basically, they can't be held personally liable in many cases. Not there's exceptions, of course, but so what ends up happening is in part because different states have different interpretations of qualified immunity. So in some states there's more accountability, in some there's a lot less, and to the point where in some states a cop could be like, "Fuck you and your rights," boom, and they might still be able to get away because, oh well, they were in there, and you have to make then the burden's on you to prove that what they did was somehow outside the bounds of their job, even though it should be, and you would think intuitively obvious, but that's not the way the laws read, and they're written that way on purpose. Because I think,
I don't know. Don't forget, in the U.S., the cops were created as slave catcher.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Well, like Steve said, the Amadou Diallo case, and basically the way the law is in a lot of states, if a reasonable person could believe they were in danger, that's generally enough of an allowance. So that's the reason why those 4 cops got away, because they said, well, we were scared. So of course, the average person said, well, they might have been scared. It was reasonable to believe that they could have been scared, and that was what the threshold was. Of course, they completely ignores the fact that the only reason why they could have been scared is that they generated a situation by their poor actions. Instead of walking up, instead of maybe being in uniform and walking up to the guy from multiple directions and saying, "Hey, sir, why we got a report of somebody acting strangely? Why are you sitting on the porch here? What's going on?" A car in Brooklyn, mind you. A car comes screeching around the corner, comes to a screeching halt. 4 white dudes jump out of the car with guns drawn in Brooklyn, in like the blackest section of Brooklyn. Who the fuck isn't going to run? I don't care even if they did identify. Why should I believe 4 dudes who jump out like Starsky and Hutch in the middle of Brooklyn as to what their intentions are? I'm not going to believe them, and I'm going to be like, holy shit, these 4 fucking guys want to kill me.
It's
remember,
like
Massachusetts.
Sorry, go ahead.
In Massachusetts, the courts actually ruled not a few years ago that it's reasonable for black people to run from the cops.
Good.
Yeah,
and they have the reasonable justification to be afraid of the police.
Yeah, which they absolutely
definitely
do. My favorite part, not my favorite part because it's a horrible story all around, but one of the most telling parts of the aftermath of the Amadou Diallo case was, and I mentioned this, I also mentioned this on Friday, that's the case that inspired Bruce Springsteen to write 41 Shots, this amazing song about racism and police brutality. And he sang that song at Madison Square Garden, and after he did, of course, a lot of New York cops got all pissy about it. And the president of the New York Fraternal Order of Police said that Bruce Springsteen was a fucking dirtbag. That's a direct quote. He didn't say that about the cops who murdered the guy by just emptying their fucking magazines into him, shooting him 41 times. Those weren't fucking dirtbags. But the rock star who wrote a song about it and pointed out how fucked up it was that black people have to go through life like this. And, there's verses in the song about like a mother teaching her child how to interact with the police so that you can make it home. And I mean, all this, just like what you were saying, Joe, earlier about, all this stuff you have to go through in case you get a traffic stop. That white people don't ever have. It never even enters my mind as a white person. And so he's the fucking dirtbag for writing a song about it. But the guys who actually kill the guy, they're probably, they're just good cops who got railroaded, I guess.
Can we have civility? Come on.
And that shows me how toxic things are, both for one in police culture, because if you remember in New York after the Eric Garner thing, and de Blasio had made some comments about it. So then he had an assembly, and there was a lot of cops, and like 2/3 of the cops turned away to face away from him. Like, holy shit, they all should have been fucking fired for gross insubordination. That would have been grounds for termination, but he let it go. But this is where they are going. Well, you want to hold us accountable? What the hell is that? But again, I always come back to white society because Steve, like you said, you don't even have to think about that stuff. But then if something were to happen to me, and just say because I had forgotten or whatever, and like, well, why didn't you just do this? Or why didn't you jump through all these hoops? I'm like, wait a minute, you don't even, like you said, you don't even think about these hoops, and you're saying, why didn't I jump through these hoops that you would never accept having to jump through yourself?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. there's a further point here, and I think it's important as hell, and it really shows what the attitude is of the proverbial thin blue line. The guy, I still can't remember the name of the guy who was on Lloyd's neck, but here's the point. There were 3 other cops there who did nothing.
Yes.
Why?
Who actually participated, and as I said earlier, were probably contributed to the guy's death.
Exactly. I mean, one of those guys could have just sotto voce. You know, come on, guy. I mean, we can put this guy under control. Let's get him in the squad. Let's get him to the station.
He was under control.
Yeah, he was.
The problem is that they see each other as family, and they look out for their own, and they bond together, and they see it's like they are the in group, and everybody else is the out group, except when they see like those protesters in Michigan, those terrorists, you know, are walking around with full camo, like army gear and guns and everything, shouting in their faces.
I want to get a haircut.
They look at that and they see, well, I see a little bit of myself in that. You know, I agree with them on some things. That's what America looks like. It's sickening. Just this human bias.
One thing I do want to say about the protests that I find disturbing. And it's not the protests themselves, but there are a number of people have posted videos of very suspicious figures, all of them white, showing up with hammers and breaking windows and then walking away. And these people have like breather masks. And some of them I think are cops, some of them I think are right wing. But I actually do think, because there was one a friend of mine who was and this is, so I got this firsthand, well secondhand, but not third hand at least, that some people showed up and they were breaking shit, and people were like, "Hey, don't do this." And the people who were doing this were like, I don't have to, basically saying, I don't have to listen to you. And it was basically all about the status quo. And that made me thinking like, well, they used at least the language of like Antifa. And I'm like, if these are, I hope they're not Antifa people, because I've generally been supportive of Antifa people, but if there are Antifa people doing this shit because they want to throw in their bullshit, then I'm fucking livid, because then that's white people appropriating our shit and fucking things up for us yet again.
Well, I was going to end it on a positive note. What did you guys think about the SpaceX launch?
I thought it was fabulous.
I thought it was great.
I can't tell you how thrilled I am. I mean, from a guy who grew up with Mercury and Gemini and Apollo, that was just the bomb. It was tremendous.
I thought it was cool, and as I said on Twitter, good on those astronauts for getting the fuck off this planet.
Yeah, I want to just like go through a series of plugs. All those who've been like listening to this podcast, Joe Stevenson talked a lot. He has a channel called Seriously Minded. Go check it out. He hasn't posted anything in years, but you can still check out the old videos. Nick Anderson, who also talked a lot, is the comic book creator of the Planet Ripples, or planetripple.com to check that out. And Nick Anderson has his own YouTube channel, Nick on the Planet Ripple. Veterano and Submarine Geek and John Brockman are part of Social Justice Alchemy, and I want to bring that up because this Saturday is going to be our 100th episode of Social Justice Alchemy, and we don't know what we're going to just do. It'll just be another Social Justice Alchemy where we're just like, okay, we're here, we'll talk about whatever comes to mind, even if it's like Rob Liefeld, comic books, cats, Terry Pratchett, or politics. And so please check us out. I'm not going to, there's the Google Doc that's down in the description of the charity links, and I've been updating and editing it. But I think some of the first listings now are not just like charity links for my friends and our friends, but like please check those out down below. But I put in links, and I'll go and continue to put more links of like bail bonds funds and like other like links to other Google Docs of just like bail funds for community funds for all of those, like, and like Black Lives Matter funds for all those protests that happen across the country, because like a lot of people got arrested, and they're gonna like really like need some help. So those would be the first things, the Google Doc, and like that's it of my pitches. So
well, you said everything. I don't have to say anything.
Yeah,
it's great.
The only pitch I would like to say is, for those who have gone to protest, I thank you very much. For those who are able and willing, I thank you, and haven't done so, but are willing to do so. I hope you will, and thank you very much. I was thinking last night, there was stuff going on in New York. If I was more ambulatory, I really would like to take place, because I kind of feel, as an older person, if something happens to me, like, I'm certainly closer to the end of my life than the beginning. So if something were to happen to me, hey, I lived my life, and so I like the younger people to be able to survive. But I really wish I could take place physically, because if I was more able, maybe if I won't get into that, but anyway, I appreciate everyone who does. When whatever way you contribute is helpful, and I hope that this keeps. I hope that this doesn't stop. I hope this goes on for days, weeks, months, and because that's what it's going to take.
Yes.
And if you're not able to participate in person, then the best thing you can do is, when you're dealing with people, like somebody made the thing about how it's going to change one conversation at a time. That if you have friends and family who, I'm not talking about like the rabid people, it's going to take way more than a conversation to change them. If you know people who don't understand, who are on the fence, who can be swayed, every time you can kind of make them think and jog their mind and point out what's really going on, that helps. Because that's what's gonna. Because it's not. I know. We want and we need immediate change. We're not going to get immediate change, but every step we take in the right direction gets us closer to the end game.
Yeah, the only problem is we tend to do the USA shuffle, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and sometimes it's 2 steps forward and 3 steps back.
Yes, Angela Davis put it as a title that freedom is a constant struggle. Another one of the books I have to read, like all the other books, let's read black activists, writers as well, if you're a white or anyone, and so read up on that, listen to Black voices.
So I agree with everything everybody just said. I'm gonna take us off the air now, but to everybody who's protesting and everybody who is supporting the protesters, thank you. You're doing good work, and I hopefully everybody who's able to support you is supporting you, and I know we support you on this channel for whatever that's worth. So
I would say stay safe.
Stay safe. Yes, stay safe. Look out for each other. Look out for yourselves, and keep doing the good work that you're doing. So, and thanks to everybody for watching. We'll be back next month to do this again. And thanks for all my patrons for joining me, and everybody for watching. And we'll see you. Take care, everybody.
All right. Peace.